we're going to take a look at a couple of formulas to names, and I'm going to compare two different compounds here. So a couple of basics that I want to remind you of. Whatever element comes first in a compound is always going to have some kind of positive charge. So we could say that it is a cation, and also we will see in our formulas that those are always metals. In our ionic compounds, we're going to see that the thing that's written second always has a negative charge. That means that it is an anion, and these are going to be made up of nonmetals or polyatomic ions that are made out of nonmetals. So we always write our metals positive ions first and our nonmetals negative ions second. Now, if I want to take this, and right now I have a formula, and I want to get to a name for this, it's really important that you figure out what the ions are first and then name it, okay? And as I figure out what the ions are, I want to have a couple other terms in mind. So when you see these small numbers at the bottom of a formula, those are called subscripts. They're low like a submarine. Subscripts tell you the number of atoms that are present. So this is 2 irons, this is 3 of these carbonate ions. Okay, now we can take those subscripts and they can help us figure out our charges. So I can take this 3 and I can cross it up, and I can take this 2 and I can cross it up, which is the reverse of what we do when we build these formulas. And when I do that, then I have iron, and we can see that that 3 came up, and because we know that it's the metal, the cation, it's got a positive charge. And then over here with the carbonate, we can look and see that that 2 came up, and we know that it's negative because we always have our negative ion second, okay? These numbers up here, these are called superscripts. Super is a prefix that can mean above. So superscripts are going to tell us the ion charge. All right, so we've got subscripts, the number of atoms, superscripts, the ion charge, okay? Once I figured this out, I could tell you, hey, there's 2 of these irons. I could tell you there's 3 of these carbonates, but I don't really need that to name it. So now I can look at this and I can say that this is an iron ion, and this is iron with a charge of 3. Remember, we have to put a Roman numeral because iron can be positive 2 or positive 3. And then here, this is going to be carbonate. How do I know it's carbonate? Well, refer to your little table of polyatomic ions. Here is that CO3 2 negative, and you always want to cross-reference that this ion matches this one. This is always correct, so this will let you check that you figured out the right carbonate here. So that's iron 3 carbonate, okay? Now iron 2 carbonate is going to be just a little bit more challenging, but same exact approach. So I have the formula, I need to figure out ions, and then I can name it, okay? So we're going to look here. This would be a subscript of 1, right? So that 1 is going to move up, and then over here, I have to think that this carbonate, there's actually 1 carbonate. So I just put it in parentheses to realize that there's 1, okay? Now, when I do that, I would come up with iron having a positive charge and carbonate having a negative charge. At this point, you always want to check, all right? The places you want to check your ions are you want to check them on the periodic table, and you also want to check your polyatomic ions. Because sometimes when I just combine 2 ions, there's actually a charge here that we are overlooking. So I'm going to bring my little table here, and if you look at carbonate, carbonate's actually 2 negative. So I need to say, okay, this is 2 negative. Not 1 negative, but 2. And because this is a 2 negative, then that means that the iron, to balance it out, has to be a 2 positive. All right, so you can check that with your polyatomic ions, or you can go to the periodic table and check, let's just say instead maybe you had an oxide. You can check your monoatomic ions, their charges at the periodic table. So once I've got these, now I'm ready to name it. So this is iron, and this 2 charge is what gives me my Roman numeral. So iron 2, and then carbonate. And remember, we never use any prefixes on these compounds because they are ionic, they are charged. All right, so you can see iron 3 carbonate has a different formula than iron 2 carbonate, and I hope some of that vocab and seeing those worked out is a help to you.